Hi everyone, a very good morning, afternoon and evening to all of you. All those who have attended our earlier workshop might notice a small change in today's workshop. Rashika is not hosting. That's because I personally wanted to do it since this workshop is a little closer to my heart. I'm Rajat, one of the co-founder at ProApp. ProApp, to those who aren't aware, is a place to learn all things design. It is a platform built exclusively for designers. We have almost 40 plus courses live right now on the app, and we have been doing multiple workshops to train the designers. This is our fourth workshop in the row, and with a lot of exuberance, I wanted to tell you the last three of them have been immensely successful. Why wait anymore when we have such an amazing workshop lined up for you, all the creative heads? The speaker for today is Punit Chawla. Punit is a YouTuber, a public speaker, entrepreneur, and most importantly, a designer. Punit is also an Adobe Achievement Awards nominee, 3 times Google Event speaker, and 4-time Medium top writer in design and inspiration. Punit has been in the design industry for about 7 years now, and he is the founder of Designwings, a complete UI UX designing school that takes you from complete beginner to a pro. Additionally, he's a very good friend of mine. Let's welcome Punit with a bang. Punit, please take it away.
Hi, Rajat. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Really glad to be here at Pro HQ, hanging out with you guys. And of course, today we're going to have this amazing session that we have lined up for everyone. Towards the end of this session, we have some, special tidbits to give you guys. And I think it'll be very incredible for everyone who's joining and for everyone who'll watch. So, today, of course, I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with what we're going to talk about. But of course, I'm going to give you a quick recap on what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to quickly share my screen right here and show you what we have planned for you. All right, so today's session is very carefully titled Ideating and Making Better Design Decisions. And this is a huge topic in the design world, because once you get into your first job, into your first design opportunity, or whatever it might be, these things will be the most crucial parts of your design process. Because if you can't communicate your design ideas, if you can't communicate what decisions you want to make as a designer, then what's the point of being a designer, correct? So today we're going to go through all these, the amazing factors that make design decisions so lucrative, not only for the business, but also for designers. You get to see your designs in an actual application. So let's move on to, just quickly see the agenda for today. We have, of course, the fundamentals of problem solving, and that's what we're going to start off with. We have evaluating bright ideas for users and business. We have wireframing. So I'm going to give you a little hands-on with how you can take just these ideas, these plain simple ideas, into something more visual, something that will fit, say, on a screen, and you can show it to people as well. Of course, it's followed by communicating and negotiating design decisions. Once you have all these things set up, how do you get, the business to agree on a certain decision, and how do you go on about executing it after that? And of course, for all the UI fanatics out there, can UI design actually solve major user problems? Is that possible? So we're going to end it with that. However, we will also be having a Q&A round. So for that, guys, all you need to do is there'll be a little Q&A, a little chat bubble which says Q&A. You have to press on that and you have to type in your questions. So whichever questions you have, whenever you have them, put them in that Q&A section, something around here in Zoom. Now, we're going to begin with understanding where today's session will fit in the design process, or what we are covering, where will that be when it comes to the whole design process, okay? So, of course, today we're not going to look at things like research or user research. We're going to look at the definition, the ideation, and the prototyping stage. Of course, the prototyping stage will only be covering the wireframes, but that's okay. So definition, ideation, and prototyping, this helps create the entire application and turn it into something which is more valuable, not only to the business but also to the users. So this is where, if you're wondering where this session fits in you can appropriately fit into these three columns right here. So if I move on, we have a little thing which says, what is problem solving? This question is pretty interesting because everybody has a different view of problem solving. A business manager will have a different viewpoint of how to solve a problem. Say a designer will have a different one. So in this case, I have tried to crunch it down into 4 very important questions that one must ask. Okay, so we have who, what, how, and of course, the end thing is, will it even work? So who is understanding who you are trying to target, your users, as well as who is going to benefit from this inside the business as well. So for example, I'm sure if you're from India or anywhere else, you must have food applications, food delivery applications. Whenever they come up with a new feature, they put like a little poster, a little banner which says, hey, this is a new feature in our application. Why is that being done? That's being done to say it could benefit the design team, the product team, as well as the marketing team, because you're marketing something new in the product. So you need to figure out who you are basically solving problems for at that point. Now, next thing is what? What's the problem, right? What's the real problem that we're facing? Again, we're not talking about assumptions. You can't just get up and say, hey, I assume this is the problem. That's completely not gonna slide with the folks in the team. So in this case, you need to figure out what are the priorities, the problems that you want to put on top, and you want to solve those. The next question that I want to ask is how? How do you solve that problem? If there is a problem, I'm pretty sure there is a solution, right? Of course, there are certain methods of doing that in design. Everybody does it differently, but here we will be focusing on how to solve that problem through certain design practices. And of course, will it even work? What did we work so many months for on a design decision, on a new feature? We push it out and it doesn't even work. Well, you have to carefully put it together and have to make sure that you've tested it out properly before you can even launch it. Otherwise, somebody's going to be very mad in the company. So the next little slide I wanted to share, and this is why I'm calling this entire presentation a $1 million presentation, is because we're going to look at a quick short case study on a $3 million button. Pretty sure if you've followed me anywhere in your life, you would have heard of this because I live by this. So $300 million button, let's look at how changing a little button on a little website called Amazon made that company $300 million. I'm going to quickly open this little link right here. Everything is now suddenly little. So I'm just going to expand this. Everything else is secretive behind this, huh? I'm going to reveal that secret soon. So the $300 million button is Jared M. Spool led a team of designers in Amazon, and they figured out that what the button says currently is absolutely not correct. Now people have this little cognitive stopper inside their head which says, hey, if you have to register for a website, or if we have to sign up, give our information, we're forming some sort of relationship with the company, and that takes a lot of commitment. Of course, you guys know how relationships work, right? So that takes commitment. So Jared Spool wanted to remove the factor of commitment from a little button which said register on Amazon's website. So what do? They go around, they as you can see, I'm not here to be in a relationship. So he realized that it's not good for new customers as well as repeat customers, because they continuously have to do the same thing again and again. So they came up with a very interesting solution to make sure that people just don't move away from Amazon to some other random website to order books, food, whatever. Now, in this case, they removed the word register and switched it with something which says continue, as you can see here. And that continue made people feel that this is just one little step that they need to move forward with. And even though they definitely asked for sign up information, they did not ask for it upfront. That gave them enough time and gave the user less pressure here to make sure that he moves forward one step at a time. And that way he removed the cognitive load, the pressure that they had here. And that way the revenue from clicking on that button increased by 45%, which in Amazon's terms is $300 million. So this is why UX, problem solving in UX, can literally make your company millions. And this is probably going to be your next pitch when you're in an interview or something, but use these words very wisely. Now I'm going to move back to my little slide there, and okay, which I don't know where it is now. Okay, it's here. Okay, so if I move on, can we do this? I'm pretty sure you're intrigued by this whole topic of $1 million button. But can we actually come up with a $1 million idea ourselves? And I thought, ideation, you're trying to bring up ideas. And what better way to figure out one of the best, coming up with idea exercises in the world than actually doing a little exercise together? I'm pretty sure you guys are up for it, aren't you? That's why you're sticking around. So I'm going to go to a website which I love to visit because it's right up my alley. It's called Fake Clients. And Fake Clients, what Fake Clients allows us to do is make sure that we have a problem statement with us. So for some reason, it disagrees with me and it's not opening up. Let me just open it up here. Okay, got it. Awesome. So Fake Clients allows you to create a fake proposal from a client to say, okay, this is the problem and this is how you need to fix it. Now, in this case, what I'm going to do is going to change logo design to UX design. And I'm going to say generate prompt. So it generates a little problem. I won't call it a problem statement, but definitely there is, a problem being mentioned here. So instead of, looking at this, what I'm going to do is go to this little box here, which says get a full longer brief. And I'm going to go to check out a problem here together, right? So in this case, you have, I am Will, Chief Executive Officer of Freshly Dropped, a food service that delivers freshly picked meal boxes for you to prepare at home. The recipes and items are carefully selected to our customers' wishes and needs and delivered right to their doorstep. So in this case, you have a lot of sentences which mean nothing right now. But if we nitpick here, there are a few problems that we can figure out just by looking at this brief. So of course, in this case, if we had done the research, we could have validated problems in this statement. But for now, we're just gonna, kind of figure out what the problems are just from this brief. In this case, we have a food service that delivers freshly picked meal boxes. Problem number one. If the food isn't fresh, they won't trust you. And how do they build trust? They need to make you as a company or you as a designer need to make sure that it's carefully stated on the application that this food is fresh, and you give them some incentive for it. And of course, the second problem here is doorstep delivery. Such a huge problem, isn't it? So we have now two problems that we've just come up with just from this brief. Of course, if I was doing research, I would have validated, so don't skip that point. But in this case, we are going to pick this up right here. So food service that delivers freshly picked meal boxes. So we're going to go to a little Figma tab that I have opened here. And we're going to check out a little exercise that companies love to do because it helps bring experts in, product managers in, maybe people from that field, say in this case, it would be the food industry in, and of course, designers into one single room. And they sit down and they ask one simple question. They say, how might we ... How might we solve this problem? Or how might we attend or attack this problem? So in this case, we can fill in the blanks with anything that we like. On a normal day, we would be doing it on a board, but in this case, we're going to use FigJam to figure out how might we solve a particular problem. Now, a quick note, whenever you're doing such an exercise where you're solving problems, you definitely need to have all the problems laid out first without being biased about the solution. So if you have a solution, throw it in the dustbin or something because it's not going to work here. First of all, you will have to note down all the problems. So in this case, we're going to say, how might we ensure that customers trust our freshness? That is one problem we studied before. Of course, we can break this down into different smaller portions. Generally, how might we are much shorter, but we're going to leave this at that. I'm going to duplicate this real quick, and we're going to put it right beside. Great. The second problem was, we can, of course, see what we want to prioritize, but first we want to see the problem. So in this case, we say, how might we make doorstep delivery better? Or in this case, we could alternate between this and saying, how might we allow users to select doorstep delivery easily? Okay, there could be anything here, okay? But these are a bunch of problems that we just figured out from that little brief. Research would have been very helpful, but since we're not focusing on that, let's just focus on this. How might we ensure that customers trust our freshness? Okay, so we're giving a positive note here. And the reason why we're giving a positive note here is because in a lot of cases, using a negative note might create a bias in other stakeholders or people who are part of this activity. So you want to make sure that it's driven towards a solution. Something that is negative can spark even a debate in the meeting room. So it's best just that we stick to something a little more positive like this. So now we have, say, 3 basic problems laid out. One is ensure customer trust for freshness. How might we make doorstep delivery better or easier? Or how might we allow users to select doorstep delivery easily? So you can, of course, alternate before that. Now, definitely right here, once this activity is done, say how might we have a bunch of stickers. The sticky note, the number of sticky notes are 10 times this, that's for sure. But right now we have a small number of sticky notes. So right below this, I'm going to add, say, another sticky note. And I'm going to change the color just so that we can differentiate this. So this was yellow. So maybe we'll give this a green to signify a possible solution. Now in this meeting, oftentimes, an expert is called on. So in this case, it would be people handling say freshness, or people who are making sure there's quality analysis in the company. In this case, there could be people who are taking care of logistics, can be in the room. So often having experts in the room will give you an expert's opinion, and experts might have solutions for you as well. So in this case, how might we ensure customers trust our freshness? So off the top, we're gonna think of something. In this case, it could be give them a prompt for freshness. So you can always upfront tell them that our food is fresh. You could also come up with a solution which says, hey, our food, or something that says our food or our ingredients were picked so many hours ago. Okay, so if say carrots were picked 12 hours ago, they're bound to be fresh, right? Or we could instead even say one more solution. We're gonna then focus on the others. We're gonna say something like, we can come up with something like a prompt or something, a message that says how we refrigerate or store our ingredients. So that way they know that the ingredients that we're sending to them or delivering them are 100% fresh, because we show how it's stored, how it's handled. And that way there's this creation of trust that, okay, these people are legit. Now, of course, these are a bunch of solutions we've come up with. Now let's just quickly come up with a bunch of solutions for this as well. So this question goes like, how might we make doorstep delivery better? Okay. Or one of these, easier or better. Now in this case, we can come up with, say, off the top, we can come up with solutions like option for doorstep delivery on checkout. Since this is an application, we're just focusing on the technical bits here. We can also be like, ring the doorbell when the driver reaches, or ask them to leave the order at the door. So now we have a bunch of solutions for this. Now these solutions are not 100% fair. They're not 100% from, say, experts in the room, because apparently I'm pretty lonely here. We have a bunch of solutions for these various problems. And as a UX designer, I can tell you a lot of these solutions do work. Now, we're going to focus on only 2 of these. And now we have a little how might we board here. How difficult was that? I think out of 0 to 10, this is definitely a 2. But honestly, if you do it effectively, it does become a little more difficult, because then you can have a bunch of problems and you have to come up with a bunch of solutions and really bring valuable solutions. You can't just throw any ideas at the board. You have to make sure that what you're saying can be validated in the future as well. It's not completely useless. So these are some valuable options that we have now. And we're going to make sure that we're going to take this to the next level. And I'm going to tell you how we take this to the next level. So if I go back to my little board here, which I was presenting, we now have some idea of how to come up with ideas. Now, why did I even use an exercise like how might we to come up with ideas? Now, according to my experience, so what I worked with other designers, product managers, business owners as well, was simple. There should be a seamless way to go from problems to ideas. And according to a lot of very well-known resources, as well as experience from my end as well, how might we exercises are a very great bridge between problems and ideas, because it kind of brings a lot of people together. And at the same time, it ensures that problems are already cleared out. The problem statements are set, research has been done, and now some ideation or some ideas can be put on a board. And to be honest, being put on a board means more than what you think it does. It's actually very valuable in a company. So now we have some idea of one exercise, one of many exercises that an idea can be brought up with. Now, a lot of times an employee or a designer might have a brilliant idea in the middle of his work. He's doing some work and he has a brilliant idea. He can definitely put that forward without having these exercises out there, because if that idea works, why shouldn't they take it forward? So the testing phase helps, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to move on to something that everyone likes, is the actual visual aspect of the application. Now, the visual aspect of an application is not what you think, because internally for a company, it doesn't matter in the initial stages how the application looks. All that matters is that you have got your metrics correct on the same page as everyone else. You have created something that doesn't look half bad, but gives stakeholders a message, give stakeholders that, okay, this is how the app might look in the future, and this is how we have solved these problems. So problems can be visualized, or ideas in this case can be visualized with something called a wireframe. So wireframe acts as a great visualization of ideas tool. And if somebody asks you what a wireframe is, you can give them this definition. But a wireframe in its basic form is a bunch of blocks put together, which indicate how the final product might look like. And you can kind of switch the two words between wireframe and blueprint. So if somebody doesn't understand wireframe, a blueprint kind of works. So in this step, what I'm going to do is we're going to go back to Figma, of course, our favorite tool, and we're going to figure out how we can convert these little, how might we, solutions or ideas that we brought up, and we can try and visualize how it might look. Now, this is extremely initial stage. So we really need not care how the actual design looks like. It's absolutely fine if it looks rubbish, but it's fine. So if we go to this little page that I've created here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little page. Now, since we are working on a mobile application, we're going to stick to a mobile artboard. In this case, we have the iPhone. Jesus Christ, there are a lot of iPhones here. So an iPhone 11 Pro works for now. Now, in this case, we're going to just name this because it's always great to name artboards. We're going to name this prompt for freshness. Okay. Now, a prompt, when we say a prompt, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Prompt could be a little pop-up. It could be a little banner which says, hey, we have this new feature, or this is what we're talking about here. It could be a part of, say, a card. So it could work in many different ways. But for now, what we're going to do is for first-time users only. So what we're going to do is we're going to rename this again. And at the end, we're going to say first-time users. You can use short forms. It's okay, but I'm going to use first-time users here. So for first-time users, what we can do is tell them our products are extremely fresh, and they can even check out the details of how the company keeps the product fresh for longer. Now in this case, we definitely have nothing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this little page, which is straight out of a wireframe UI kit. And in this UI kit, we already have a lot of ready-made stuff that we can check out. We have cards, we have illustrations, everything that we need is already here. Again, guys, a wireframe is just a wireframe. You don't have to put a lot of effort into creating it. It should have everything that you need, and that's it. So in this case, we want to have a little pop-up, and we have landed on a pop-up right here. So I absolutely love this. These illustrations and everything are good, but for now, we're going to keep it simple with normal text and a box which looks like a card. So in this case, this looks really, really good. What we can do is we can even put something like this here. So something which is a hybrid between that and this. So this is the best part of a UI kit, is that you have so many options to check out from. So I really like this card on top. So I'm going to copy this and go back to our little Pro tab here. And if I paste it here, fits perfectly, huh? Now, again, you don't have to care too much about spacing. You don't have to care too much about the aesthetics. You don't have to care about, don't have to care about 100 other components on the screen. So in this case, we just have this one little pop-up. For good measure, what you can do is, if you have something ready, you can put it on top of this. But for now, a blank screen is just fine. So in this case, we can always replace this. Now, a wireframe does not give you the liberty to use lorem ipsum, guys. Please remember that. You don't have liberty to use lorem ipsum anywhere. If you get that thought, remove that thought, okay? Now, in this case, we want to have actual data. So since there's nobody here to give me anything, we have a content creator's mind. So we're gonna come up with something. So popular, we can remove this. So in bold, we can always give them the message that we want to portray. And this is perfectly placed. So in this case, we can say our produce is completely fresh. Perfect. You might want to shorten this. This looks slightly long. We can say everything is completely fresh. That's so much better, and it's a little more friendlier as well. Everything is completely fresh. And of course, the text is a little too big, so we're going to fit it in. Yeah, this is much, much better. Awesome. So now we have a little title which says everything is completely fresh. And of course, we can give small pointers here, things like stored in refrigeration, something like that. Stored in refrigeration. Then you have how many hours ago. Again, we're trying to implement those ideas in the form of content as well, correct? So in this case, we have stored in in refrigeration. Picked 12, not actually 12 is a little too much, picked 8 hours back or 8 hours ago. So, okay, this is not the perfect, but of course, this is, pretty fresh. And last but not the least, it could be completely, organic. That's something people care about these days. So whatever people care about here should come. That's our priority here. And instead of love button, we are going to say something like, check out more or learn more. Learn more is much better. It's more universally acceptable. Now, in this case, we of course want to have a little cross on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a cross. In this case, hopefully we have a little plugin which says icons. Yep, feather icons. The best solution for me. It should open now. Yep. Now we have a feather icon. Now we have close, of course. Remember, wireframe, if just by calling it a wireframe, you don't get excused from making it a subpar, design. You have to make sure that everything is there. You don't leave anything to someone's doubt. If you want to show this design to someone else later on, which you will have to, they shouldn't worry whether there's something missing or not. Everything should be there, and it's not an excuse on any occasion. Oops. So we can just put it right here, and later on we can shift it to the right. No issues. So in this case, we have a cross button. We have everything is completely fresh, and learn more at the bottom. Not perfect, definitely, but great for a wireframe. So this was a little, okay, how do we convert, say, an idea into a solution? Because as designers, we know what a prompt is. We know what a model here is. We know how to create it. And from the ideas that we came up with of giving them a message of how fresh our product is, we could incorporate this into a nice little list. And since we're using a UI kit, often using a UI kit can give us such amazing, bright ideas. So don't be afraid of checking out, say, a wireframe kit and seeing the ways they've done it. After all, as designers, we do look at our competitors' applications as well and see what they're doing right, and often get inspiration from that. So in this case, we're not copying anything. This is free to use UI kit, and we will definitely change it according to our own design systems or our brand system. And that is how it's going to work at the end. But for now, this is a little, how might we visualize it as well? So we connected the dots from, okay, this is the problem statement that we've understood from the brief. This is the, these are the how might we exercises that we did. And from that, we gained a lot of insight on these ideas. Now, oftentimes, a lot of these ideas once they've quickly just wireframed, they're often put through something that is called testing. So remember, this is not where the life cycle of this idea ends. It's going to go through testing, it's going to go through validation from potential users or actual users, and only then moves on. Quick disclaimer, that is how it's done. So don't think this is where everything ends. Now let's quickly look at the quick second solution. Since we now have everything prepared, we need not, need a lot of time. Now, what I'm going to do is duplicate this little artboard, and we are going to remove this. So if I go back to our how might we's, the second thing says, how might we doorstep deliver better or allow the user to, have doorstep delivery? So in that case, we can again use a prompt, or we can use certain, certain mechanisms to allow the user, or certain patterns to allow the user to select doorstep delivery at checkout. Because checkout, or the point of checkout, is where you want the user to select certain details before he actually moves on to pay, correct? So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to go back here to the UI kit, to our trusty UI kit, and we're going to check out, different things that we have here. So right now, how I'm visualizing this in my head is that there's a little switch that allows them to switch between doorstep delivery or hand me the order delivery, correct? So in this case, we want to look for something that remotely looks like a switch, and there we go. This not only remotely, it looks perfectly like a little container, which is a switch. Now in this case, of course, we're going to copy this back onto our Pro. See how wonderfully we can wireframe something quickly. These are just quick wireframes that we are creating to find a potential, visual to what we were thinking in our head. So of course, a lot of times it's going to be on paper, but why not? We'll put it here. So we will assume that we worked on some UI before, and there's some UI here. So just to identify that this is a section between, say, two sections, we're going to use this space here. So in this case, we don't want 6:30 a.m. We're going to remove this column here, this row here, and we're going to also change this to say our message that we want to portray. Again, wireframe does not give you the right to use lorem ipsum, absolutely not. In this case, we're going to say want doorstep delivery ? And we're going to make sure that it fits in this. So we're going to make sure that the width is this much only. There's enough padding from here. There, again, not looking at the spacing as of yet, but just making sure that it doesn't absolutely, look bare bone. It has some meaning to it. So in this case, I want to move this down. Perfect. So we have a prompt which says want doorstep delivery. And inside this switch, oftentimes what we do is we can say yes or no inside this switch as well. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to make sure that this is wide enough so that it can inculcate that yes or no. In this case, I'm going to detach this instance real quick, and great. I'm going to now stretch this out a little bit. This is the fun of it. This is the fun of design. When you get to edit someone else's design, you've already won. So now you have yes in this case. I'm gonna make sure this is much smaller. Yes. Again, not worrying too much about how thick this is, or it doesn't look appropriate. It's fine because it's a very, very rough wireframe, and that is what you want it to be in the initial stages. So we have a very neon green apparently. Let's move it. Yeah, okay. So now we have one doorstep delivery. Yes, if somebody switches this on, it says yes. If somebody switches this off, it says no. So a simple question backed by a simple answer, isn't it? So now we have a little, section or banner on screen which says, hey, do you want doorstep delivery? And this comes at the stage where you're actually wanting to allow the user to check out or before the user checks out. So that's absolutely a great solution that we worked on right now. And we're gonna close this chapter here. So now we have two nice little wireframes, and quick thumbs up if you think this was a lot of fun just making this wireframe right here. Now I'm going to move back to my slides and see what other cool things we have for you for today. So I'm just going to move back. We did a little bit of visualization of those ideas, often done on paper, but for your, just to show you, it's eye candy. We're just showing it on Figma. But now comes to a point where we have, some wireframes, basic wireframes that we've drawn out. We have ideas. We have possibly, gone through a little bit of testing internally or externally, and we have some information with us which says, okay, this is an idea that will work because this. You give all the reasoning, you document everything, and then you come to a stage where you actually have to tell people, this is my idea, this is how it'll look, and this is how it will benefit the company or the users. Now, in this case, there are 4 basic pillars that I've learned throughout my career on how a great idea can be presented and how you guys should also do it when you get your first design job, or even if you are employed right now, this will be super helpful. A great presentation. Presentations are not dead, guys. Presentations are very crucial because just like wireframes help to visualize your ideas and possible solutions. A presentation can help visualize those solutions on a scale where you can show people this is how everything looks. So a great presentation will communicate a lot of different things, which we will check out very soon. But the second point right now is learn their language. You gave a great presentation, cool. Now, what if you have to talk to them in a meeting, or if you have to talk to them one-on-one? How do you do that? And when I say them, who do I even mean by them? Them are people who are often not even designers. Them are the stakeholders who are deciding factors behind whether the idea is going to move forward or not. Oftentimes it's product managers. Oftentimes it could even be the product owner. It could be a CEO attending a meeting. It often happens, especially in startups where the CEO is heavily involved in the design process or in the development process. Now, you need to learn their language. And I'm not saying learn a new language. I'm just saying make sure they understand what you are talking about. Because if you guys weren't designers, I'm pretty sure you would have been lost today hearing what I have to say. Correct? But today, because you have that interest, you know what a lot of these terms mean, you are sticking around. So if I was speaking to you in the terms of, say, okay, how do we program this application? Okay, we're probably going to use Kotlin, and we're probably going to push in the future. We're probably going to have a native application which supports our native DB, and we're going to push that. You would understand nothing. So the same way, you must empathize with the people sitting in front of you. You must speak in their terms. So if you're talking to, say, the product manager, he understands business. He understands, okay, this is the user, what the users are looking for. These are their problems. These are how businesses' needs can also be fulfilled. And this is the product, and it doesn't move away from the product. So they're talking more in terms of the production of the product than anything else. And say a developer is looking for, okay, this is how we're going to hand off this project to the developers. So everyone has a different language, a different way of speaking, and different terminologies they have in their little dictionary. So make sure you are able to communicate in their language and they can understand what you're saying. The third one is keep stakeholders in the loop. A lot of times what happens is you're a designer, you're confident, about your designs, and you're working on a design, you've designed a bunch of screens, or you're just working on wireframes. Okay, you're working on wireframes, and you say these wireframes are great, correct? What if you go to somebody who, to whom this project is important? Is it a guarantee he will give the check mark? Absolutely not. So you have to make sure that before you go on design 100 screens, you make sure that everyone involved is in the loop. Again, it kind of ties in with the whole communication aspect of things. Is when you want to communicate an idea, you must make sure that they understand where that idea comes from, where it, why that idea has, become what it has become in the company, and why people want to push this forward. So you must make sure that every stakeholder, be it stakeholders in the meeting, or product managers, or design leads, managers, head of design, head of product, everyone is kept in the loop, and everyone is aware that those ideas exist and they're being taken care of. Otherwise, you work on something, goes to waste. Now, the fourth pillar that I've figured out over time is document absolutely everything. So documentation is what a lot of people require. Okay, this idea is great. Do you have any proof that this will work, or will this be aligned with what we want from the product? Absolutely not. So until and unless you don't have everything documented out, your how might we is documented out, testimonials from other people who said, okay, this is a yes from their end, making sure that some form of testing has been done, qualitative or quantitative, and what are the results that come out. Quantitative is always better when you're talking to non-design folk, but even if you're talking to design folk, make sure you have as much information and data as possible. And that will make sure that you can just pass it on rather than explaining everything to them. Just pass it on, send them an email. So all these 4 pillars will ease the process from an idea going from a concept to a final product or a final feature in your product. Now, we spoke about presentations here, correct? How do you make sure that your presentations don't completely suck and they get the point across, and everyone in the meeting is absolutely impressed by you? There are a couple of pointers that, note this down, take a screenshot, whatever you want, because these are going to make sure that your base of creating a wonderful presentation exists. So in this case, we have a bunch of options here, not options. These are not or, these are ands. You'll have to make sure all of these are included in your presentation. Now, the first thing is not even something that you include in your presentation, which proves that I'm a hypocrite. Know the audience. Knowing the audience, or whoever you're talking to, or whoever you're presenting to, ensures, again, connect the dots, that you know their language. So if you know the stakeholders in the meeting, or the people in the meeting are business folk, or a bunch of product managers, and a bunch of business managers, and some finance people who want to check the features out and see if it'll work for the product as well. You need to know the audience. If you're presenting to designers, go ahead, talk design jargon, nobody cares. But if you're in a meeting full of developers or product managers, you need to make sure that you cut out the jargon and you reach to the point without beating around the bush too much. The second one is catching your audience's attention. Now, I could absolutely say that you swear at the beginning of your presentation to get everyone's attention, but you don't want to do that. You want to absolutely, capture their attention with your wit and confidence. You need to make sure that they know that the presentation has started. You're the elephant in the room, absolutely, and they're all looking at you. They all are relying on that presentation and you to make sure that the message is, coming across. And that way, if the start is great, it generally makes sure that everything else is smooth as well. So balance between business and user objectives. That's point number 3. What do I even mean by that? Hey, Punit, what's a business objective? What's a user objective? Oftentimes, a lot of stakeholders will not understand the research that we've done as designers. So we need to make sure that what the business wants and what the user wants are in one single presentation. So that allows the business to understand, okay, this is definitely what we want from our product. And okay, this is what users are looking for from our product. So that gives a better view of the problem before you even state the problem in this case. So in this case, right after this, we move on to stating clearly what and why those problems exist. So if you don't have your problem statements laid out, or if you haven't validated those problems through research, best believe you shouldn't be giving that presentation. So make sure that in a good presentation where you have a bunch of stakeholders, you have all the problems laid out properly, illustrated in a very neat manner. Sure, take the help of illustrations and icons to illustrate your point and put it across. So whatever works for you works for them as well, but make sure that everything is clear, is cut. You cut out the jargon and you reach straight to the point. Now this, if I move on to the next portion, it says illustrate solutions well. Now we looked at a bunch of things that we did here with our how might we's. We illustrated those ideas and we put them into something that could possibly turn into something physical or digital. In this case, were wireframes. So oftentimes PMs want to look at wireframes and see how the application will look, and they want their designers to explain why they've taken such decision. So in that case, you definitely need to have those wireframes up on board, and you have to tell them, okay, this is the testing we've done with these wireframes, and people agree that this is a good way to do it, or 90% people agree to it. Whatever the metrics you've come up with, make sure you have it there. Which I revealed the next point, which says state metrics and KPIs. Okay, this is where it gets pretty interesting. Now, definitely design looks beautiful from the top, but it has a lot of metrics attached to it. And what do I even mean by metrics? A metric is something which identifies that something is working, correct? So if I have a business, which I do, and my business is making no money, is that a metric for success? Absolutely not. If my business is making money, that means my business is doing something right, and that is a metric. Making money here is a metric, and it all ties into something called KPIs, key performance indicators. What is that key metric that is saying, okay, this will perform well, or this will do well? Making money is a huge metric, definitely. Saving users time can be a metric. In that case, we made sure that everybody knew of the freshness. So we can say, okay, them trusting our freshness could be a KPI. It's more an emotional KPI than a money or a business related KPI, but it's fine. So KPIs are basically saying, if this is happening, that means this is working. If we are making money, that means we're doing something right. So that is how the dots are connected, and we finally reach to, a point where we can say, okay, boss, these are the KPIs. They're working fine. We've tested them out, and we think we can release this idea into the public. That way you get a green light faster than if you just put out designs and that's it. Correct? So you need to have those metrics laid out way before you even come up with those wireframes. Now, we want to move on to a little section which says, can problems be solved with UI? We checked out wireframes. Okay. Arguably, wireframes are not 100% part of the UI because they are just visualizing the possible user experience. And oftentimes a UX designer is doing it. It's not the UI designer who's always creating, say, a paper wireframe or a normal wireframe. So in this case, we need to ask a question which says, can problems be solved with UI? Can they? You're probably saying yes, Some might be saying no. Correct? There's only two answers here. But the correct answer is none. You can't choose a side here. You can't choose a dark side here. It's all UI can possibly solve a problem. So one tried and tested way of checking if UI can actually solve problems is checking out something called UI design patterns. What is a pattern? To a lot of people, it's the pattern on your shirt. Okay. But even the pattern on your shirt has something in common with every other form of pattern. It repeats. So if you as a user, when you're unlocking your phone, you do this, that's a pattern, that's a behavioral pattern. A UI pattern is somewhere similar along those lines. It says, this is what people are used to, and this is what most competitors are using. So people are used to this form of user interface. And that is why I have a little test out here. What's the first thing that I'm quickly going to check the chat, and we're going to see whether people are able to figure this out. What's the first one on the left? What does that mean? Give me one word that says what this little, see, everyone is saying mute. Absolutely everyone. What is this? It's a pattern. If I change that icon or that design there completely, people will freak out. People don't like change. So that is why that is now a pattern. Now, if we move on to this second one here, I have the chat up here, so I'm judging you guys completely. We have these three little dots, which says, one says cross, the other says whatever. What are these three little dots indicating? People have started to say, okay, not the back or the refresh button. Forget the back and refresh button. It's just for reference. What are the red, yellow, green buttons saying? Mac OS, min, max, and close. Absolutely. Everyone recognizes this. Even on Windows, there's cross, minus, and a little window. Minus means nothing to people, correct? But now it does, because now it has become a pattern. People have become used to it. So oftentimes you can use a UI pattern to solve a problem, or to come up with a visual aid to a solution. Remember the switch we used? We now know what a digital switch looks like, correct? So now that has become a pattern, and that is one of the reasons I used it. Doorknob, third one, doorknob. Do we rotate? What do we do? Rotate, we pull, we push. What do we do with that? What's the action we do to open a door with that kind of doorknob? Rotate, correct. So when you rotate that doorknob, the door opens. That's a habit that we've created over time. That's a usage pattern for that particular item right there, which is a doorknob. So I'm pretty sure you guys are now getting the gist of it. UI can solve become solutions for a problem if it has not only been tested out, but it also is a great pattern with the users. If you give users something new, brand new, which they're not used to in any other application, there's a higher chance that they will get confused at that stage. And that is when, it becomes difficult for the designer to come up with a solution to a solution. Get it? So in this case, we try to stick with patterns, and that is why all these applications and websites start to look similar, because a lot of websites, applications want to play it safe. And I don't blame them. It's business. If you don't play it safe, you're going to lose a lot of users, customers, whatever you want to call them. Correct? So a UI pattern will often, come with the safety of using it and just having a solution ready for you. So the next time you're actually in the market to find ideas and to bring up great solutions, oftentimes remember that a great UI solution is out there somewhere. And, these kind of prove it right there. Rajat, that's my time, man. That's all I think I had for this. I think we're going to move on to the Q&A round. And Rajat, are you going to join me for that? Little Q&A round.
Hi, Punit.
Anji.
Wow, what an amazing session. And I think the last one completely went off the roof. There was a lot of, I think, engagement from a lot of people. And just to let everyone know, we are doing a Q&A right now. If you have more questions, apart from the one that I have accepted, if you have more questions, this is the correct time to post those questions right now. Punit is going to be answering those. So we'll get started, Punit, I guess. Okay. So the first one is how to do a better user research.
That's a very broad question, but definitely, a better user research, I would say a good UX research in general has a bunch of things that you need to make sure when you're doing user research. So I think one thing that a lot of designers forget is that they need to be completely unbiased. I've seen a lot of designers, especially people who don't have a psychology background, really going in with framing questions, with talking to users, or say even shadowing users with a certain bias for their product, a bias for what they want the final result to be like. You need to make sure that you're clear of all biases and you throw everything out the room. You have to absolutely unlearn what you've learned in the organization when you're talking to the users. Okay, you're not there to solve the user's problem when you're talking to them. Okay, you're just trying to understand and see what their problems are. So make sure you keep all the solutions that you've thought of, you throw it out the window, and you talk to them like you don't even know what app this is. You're actually just trying to figure out their problems, and that's it. That's whether you have to stretch the line out. Another great way to do effective user research is to make sure you don't do too much of it. I've seen a lot of people, a lot of designers stretch out the kind of research they need to do just because it's written in the book somewhere, or people do it, so we'll do it. Well, you have to make sure that the research you're doing is valuable for the company or is valuable for your project that you're undertaking. If you're doing, say, a project where you have to talk to returning users, then stick to returning users. You have to figure out who your audience is going to be when you're doing some user research. You have to figure out where they're coming from. You have to figure a bunch of things out. So you need to be a little more picky with the UX research process, because you need to make sure that all the forms of research you're doing is you've carefully chosen it, and you're not doing it because this is what other people are doing. Another thing that really came to my mind, I'm going to end it there, the answer there, is do user research with a lot of recording on your phone, a lot of do actual when you're doing interviews, make sure there's a recorder somewhere, or somebody's taking notes, so something is there. Oftentimes written notes, you're gonna mess something up, you're gonna forget something, or you're gonna skip something. Written notes are cool, but the power of just taking a quick, just asking the user if you could take a quick audio, recording of the entire interview, do that, and then go back and see whether you missed something or not, or if you misinterpreted something. That's a great way of making sure that documentation of user research is done well.
Yeah, I think that's a correct way to go about it. And there's another question which is a little extension to this. It says, how can we predict solution without talking to real people who are facing the problem?
Okay, this is an interesting question because it's quite controversial. There are a lot of people with different viewpoints on this, of whether you can figure out solutions to a problem without actually talking to people or having people around. So my opinion on this is, think of it like this. If you build a great, you're building a building for a residential complex where 100 people are living. if you build a good base, the building is safe. If you don't build a good base, the building is going to fall and everyone's going to die. Which would you rather have? Have those people die, or build an actual good base for the building and then build the building? So that literally translates to UX. If you're doing anything in UX, especially research, if you have nobody involved, you're risking your entire company's hard work, money, time on assumptions that you're making on, just, okay, this is how it's done. UI patterns without research is nothing. So in this case, you need to make sure that whatever you're doing is backed by some information. And when I say some information, even qualitative data is better than no data at all. So if you're just talking to somebody, rather than giving them a questionnaire, you can just have a nice conversation with them about a certain topic. If it's a food app, you can talk about, hey, did you order from this application? I don't think this is correct in their application. And he's like, no man, I think this is pretty cool. I think it's pretty user friendly, it's easy to use, whatever. He's giving you some verbal feedback, and even some verbal feedback or some qualitative feedback is better than having charts and diagrams. Even if you don't have that, a good place to start is getting some qualitative data in before you move ahead. That's my opinion on it.
I think it makes sense, and we do have a lot of questions on user research, and I think that's quite interesting. And the next one is about how do we recruit users, right? How do we identify and figure out if that particular candidate is the user of the product or not? So the question goes by, how does one identify and reach out the right potential users? So it's basically about recruiting the users. So how do we go about that?
So there are a bunch of things you can look at. First of all, you need to make sure that the absolute basics are in line. So if you're making an application for students, you don't want to go to like 40-year-old adults, correct? You need to make sure that your target audience is students. So I think that oftentimes the people you're doing research with are potential target audience in the future. Like the other day I was talking to a startup, and their audience were tuition teachers who take extra classes after school, after college. Those were their target audience. So they were working closely with understanding them from a user research point of view. And that is I think that if you get that the people you're researching with, or you're gathering data from, are potential users in the future, I think there's nothing better than that. Because tomorrow, if you want to get, say, your product tested before it goes into production, you can not use those people, of course, that's the wrong term to use. You can definitely take the assistance of those people to do those tests as well. Since they've been a part of that, they know, okay, and they'll realize, okay, this is the problem that we have, and now this is being solved. So you have those people along the ride, and you take their help for research, for testing, whatever you like. So I think if you have that target audience already, Zoom, the application you guys are looking at this wonderful chat session here, went through a lot of testing and a lot of beta phases, alpha phases. And before they launched, they made sure that the target audience is already in the loop with the research, with the testing. So that's a great way to go, especially if you're confused with the kind of people you want to have on board. Just have your target audience on board.
Yeah, I think this makes sense. And since we have spoken about how to recruit people, how to conduct user research, I think the next question is a much more interesting one. It's about, when should we stop for doing research, right? Like, what is the correct point of time in the product design journey when we should essentially stop the research and possibly move towards execution or the analyzation of the research that we have done?
Here's a little secret. Never. So, see, if you think any part of the design process can stop. Go back to the drawing board. You need to figure out what design is. Design is not a linear process anymore. It used to be when people didn't have an understanding of design, but now, we use concepts such as the double diamond approach, where we, go in an infinite loop of just going from one process to the next and, back again and then back again. So you need to figure out for your teams and for your company or for your product, what's the best way to go from, say, one part of the design process to the next and back again. So, for example, research is something that can go on continuously. There's always something that needs improvement. There's always, as I said, you keep the people you're researching with in loop, and you keep on going with them till testing. And you might have to test out the application 10 times. Okay. If something didn't work out in testing, do you go back to just quickly designing something new? In India, we call it jugaad, which basically means you just figure something out, pull something out of your hat and just put it out there. Or you could go back to the drawing board, do a little bit of research on why that didn't work and what people still want, or what are the users' problems, and then figure out how to find a better solution. Now, the best part about the design process now is that you can jump certain, activities. You can skip some certain things. Of course, you have to know your thing before you do that. You can't just be a beginner and try to do that. So definitely never stop any part of the design process. It's an iterative process. It keeps on going on. So that answers a trick question. That question is a trick question, and that answer is pretty straightforward for sure.
Yeah, I think I quite agree to that. That design is completely an iterative process, and it is. I think it never stops. As per my own experience of working with multiple clients, I see that there is always a room to do better, to learn more, to improvise on whatever we have done, and see the user behavior, user acceptance, and then build on top of that. So I see there are a lot of questions, I think, Punit, around how we can learn UX and UI, and in terms of advanced courses on UX and UI, what are the correct places to go to? So I think this is a correct time. Possibly you can also talk about Designwings as well.
Yeah. So, before I endorse my own product or service, I would definitely, like to answer that question from a I'm not a owner of a design school perspective. I think learning a new skill, say, such as design, or even becoming an advanced level designer, it all comes with some form of experience and practice. Taking a Udemy course or getting a certificate is great because it allows you to learn the skill. But until and unless you put that skill to practice, you never know. Again, until and unless you test your product, you never know if it's going to work when it goes into production. So the same way, you're the product here. You need to test yourself out before you go, to the next level. So at any point of time, if you feel you want to learn, you want to become an advanced level UX UI designer, never look at, okay, we just need to learn a skill. There's a lot of different aspects to it. So learning a skill is a huge part of it. It's one of those big, stepping stones into the right direction. Absolutely. And I think, even with Designwings, that's what we do is we give students a platform to learn the skill required to become a professional UX designer, someone who is working for a company and not just, we're just doing this for fun. And it definitely, we like to drive students to actual results. Oftentimes I see, you can take a short course, whatever, but what next? We answer the question which says what next. So we recently came up with, Rajat knows, is a job guarantee program, where what we do is basically we put our money where our mouth is. We say, okay, if you don't get a job in this much time after you graduate, we give your money back, because that is how confident we are of the mentors that we have, and the wonderful education that we're providing, and the practical approach that we have to education. And that is why results matter a lot. That, again, circling it back to design, if the metrics aren't working out, then what's the point of even pushing a feature or pushing a product? So in this case, it's completely result driven, and it's aligned with what people want as well as what people need. People need a job, people want the skill. So we're giving them everything they require in 4 months. And people go crazy. How can you teach design in 4 months? We cannot, because as I said earlier, learning and getting trained, or whatever you want to call it, is just one part of the puzzle. The rest of the puzzle is you gaining experience, you making mistakes, you testing out your skills in the real world. All that matters a lot. So for people who wonder, do courses even help? Definitely they do, because they're pushing you in the right direction. But are they the only thing in the world? No. And that is, that's the kind of mindset we like to have even at Designwings, is we are giving you the push you need, and we'll also teach you how to gain experience, how to practice or test out your skills. Because certainly a school cannot do that for you. The real world can. So that is absolutely what we focus on. And Designwings or no Designwings, I think that's definitely the standard you need to set for yourself when it comes to, this is a skill I need to have, is make sure you test things out and you gain experience before you can even say I'm a pro at anything.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. There are a couple of things which are now arising out of a couple of questions that are arising out of the conversation that we just had. It is around, okay, now let's say I have learned certain things, I have built my portfolio, I have done the courses, and everything is there. Now, how do I really get a job? Like, what is the correct way to get my resume in front of the potential employers, and how do I stand out apart from the crowd that is out there, right? So yeah. I think this is a very interesting thing. Since I have been possibly shortlisting and possibly have gone through 1,500 plus resumes in the last 5 years of running the design studio, I know there are few stars who I ended up hiring. They really did certain things and certain moves which made them stand out apart from the crowd. What's your perspective on this?
So I think this is an example I always give everywhere, is people who haven't watched the movie Catch Me If You Can, you should definitely watch it. So in that film, Leonardo plays this very interesting character of a con artist, a very popular con artist. It's a real story of him going around acting like a pilot. He sits in the cockpit, he runs everything, and he has never even sat in a plane before. So he's so confident that he has that personality behind it. So my point here is, don't con, but definitely have the personality to really become a part. So if your dream job is Google, a lot of people's dream job is Google, Facebook, Instagram, Microsoft. We have a bunch of them. Now, what does it take apart from having this skill set is what you have to understand. As I said earlier, presentation is a huge part of, say, a meeting, or presenting your ideas, So how you present yourself is a huge part of whether somebody will even look at your resume or not. With, you've looked at 1,500 plus resumes. I'm pretty sure just don't say it on camera, but I'm pretty sure you ignored some of them just because you just didn't feel it. And that as designers, we must understand a lot of things work on emotion, on feeling, on, okay, this guy really gets it, that spark, that one needs. So building one's personality is very important. You know, if I was slouching and doing this all throughout the session, you wouldn't take me seriously, would you? So one needs to present oneself in front of people. Through even your resume, you can do that. You know, if you have a real cool creative resume, you know, with if you go to Pinterest, you can find a million super creative resumes. You know, pick ideas from there. Make your resume stand out, because everybody's resume is just one column, two column, three column, end it. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to stand out in whatever way possible. And when it comes to your career, won't you like to invest some time in creating a creative resume, a cool little portfolio website? All these things really help you. And once, I'm pretty sure, Rajat, I'm pretty sure your opinion on people might have changed after they met you also. So, you know, comes back to the same point. If you build a personality, if you build a persona in front of someone, you can conquer anything. So if you really want to stand out apart from everything else everyone else says, focus on building a personality. It could be communication, it could be language skills, it could be speaking skills, it could be the way you sit, it could be the way the clothes you wear. It could be as simple as that. It could also be as you know, how well you convince the people in front of you. If you're someone who's good at convincing people, you've got a job at least somewhere if you have that skill. So convincing is a huge part of, I think, the job hiring process. Is you're convincing someone that, okay, this is why you should hire me, or this is why I will benefit your organization. And you need to be confident about that. You can't shiver in your voice when you're saying it. You need to be confident about, okay, this is why you need me here in your organization. So I think these are certain pointers people can use the next time they're in an interview.
Yeah, I think I would like to add two more things to it. In fact, one of them, I feel most of the designer who I possibly ended up not hiring or possibly rejecting, I think the reason they were unable to make to our design studio was primarily they were just limited to one particular thing, which is just their design skills, and not being able to move around it, right? Like not being able to understand business as a whole, right? So I think the correct place of a designer, as per my understanding, is, and I feel that there needs to be more companies in India where designer can sit in the boardroom, right? And that is like when a designer doesn't understand the business, they are unable to integrate themselves to the business. It's as simple as that. So a designer needs to be not just a pair of hands, but he or she needs to be a brain that really helps the business progress, that really helps the business move. And that is where I think you would be able to stand yourself apart from other people if you're able to understand the business, who you are possibly trying to apply for, if you have portfolio that are similar to the business that you are trying to apply for, if you have understanding or blogs or some kind of videos that you have created for that specific industry, something add-on that you are providing to that particular industry. I think all of that adds as a star, and that helps a potential employer or a company understand that yes, this could be a right fit for us, and this could be a person with whom we can start functioning very smoothly because they have done their groundwork in terms of understanding the business. So this is I think this is the reason why I end up hiring certain kind of people for ProCreator. Cool. Okay.
Next time you're applying to ProCreator, remember that, guys.
Someone just asked how many projects should I include in my portfolio to make it more efficient? So what do you think about this, Punit?
The question shouldn't be how many projects. It should be how good of a project I want to include. Sometimes you can get your dream job just by having one amazing project, or you did great job here, whatever. So even if the project is personal, because a lot of people wonder, okay, if I'm doing a personal project, it's not as good as maybe doing a project for a company. But if the project you did for the company sucks and the personal one is amazing, then I think the personal one always wins. So if you're looking at any project in your portfolio, you must make sure, just Rajat very clearly stated, is it should have enough about the business side of things as well as the design side of things. I see a lot of portfolios, like we even help our students build portfolios. So we ensure that not only they are talking from the point of view of a designer, it's not just a design, project, it's also assisting or helping the business out and how is it doing that. So it should be clear, concise, even if it doesn't have 1500 illustrations on one page, it doesn't matter. Even if it's simple, it's to the point, and it gets the message across at the right time. It's a perfect project that you have. And I did on YouTube way back, I did like a little video where I showcased a very wonderful project. Not sure who did that, I can't remember, but somebody did a project where they added a lot of photos documenting how they were working in the organization, talking to the users, and actually going out onto the streets. Not sure what the product was all about, but it definitely included going out on the streets. And they very beautifully had this little section of photographs of how, doing research with people, of working with other designers, or working closely with people from other departments. And that little thing, that little section there was the favorite part of that entire project, because it articulated every step of the process in just few images. And if images can, say what's the saying? Say 1,000 words or something, worth 1,000 words. I think those images were worth the entire, project. And if I could hire that person, I would have, but never got the chance to do that. So I think it's just wonderful how people find unique ways to make their projects stand out, is what a lot of people are worried about. That's how you make it stand out. Do something different, add images, add videos, add audios, showcase, say, the user using the final product, the testing phase, whatever you can do in a different manner than what other people do, and make sure you keep it concise. You don't want to make a movie out of it. Just make sure it's, there's small things which just add that sense of delight there.
Cool. So we have a lot of open questions, but we are running short on time. So everyone whose question is not yet answered, I think we'll get back to you on email. I can take up the last one because I feel all the designers who have joined in right now, it's very important. Is it necessary to have a portfolio website? And I think, Punit, it's best you help all the designers understand this.
Man, I don't have a portfolio website, so I can't really say much about a portfolio website, but definitely, man, I don't think it helps that much. If we ask the question, does it really help? If you look at it from a broader perspective, not really. If you're, say, applying to a startup where, they're fascinated by websites, sure, maybe an interesting website would do. For example, I think somebody applied to a company by making a 3D video for them. If you're Indian, you recognize that person. I think he designed something for Cred and he put it out on LinkedIn and everyone was freaking out. And that was his portfolio for Cred, showing them his 3D reel through, a target to that company. So, like, people do crazy stuff for it. So a website isn't far-fetched. If you know how to make a website, if it's not taking you too much effort, go do it. Nobody's stopping you. But it doesn't help. A Behance, on the other hand, will help you more because Behance has discoverability. Nobody's going to check out your website out of random, but on Behance, maybe some potential employer just looks at your profile and calls you and says, hey, I saw your portfolio on Behance. It's happened to me. That is why I'm saying it. I think my first full-time job out of my freelancing was just somebody checked out my Behance and they reached out to me. So, whatever helps you get the job, go do it. But no need for a full website, to be honest.
So, in fact, I was saying, we got our biggest client through Dribble, in fact. The biggest client that we are serving right now in Pro Creator is through Dribble. And I feel discoverability and doing the correct work is more important than just being limited to the thought that you want to do something amazing, you want to go learn Webflow, you want to do this, that. You need to figure out what is the best way for you to showcase your work. It can be a PDF as well. It doesn't matter so much, but don't be just stuck by the fact that creating a portfolio website is only the way to win-win, right? So I think it works anyways. It's just that you need to invest energy into the correct places where you think you can and will give you the best amount of results. So having said that, I think I would want everyone to know that we will be also posting this workshop on YouTube within a week. Also, we are sending out a link in the chat for the next workshop, which is by Sandesh. It is about art of client servicing, something that Sandesh have done for almost 7 years of his life right now. And I think there's a lot to learn from that particular workshop. Go ahead and check it out on ProApp. Apart from that, we have already posted the link for Designwings form. Go ahead and fill that. And we will see you next Saturday. All right. Thanks, Punit. Thanks.
Awesome, man. Great to be here.